Hello everyone, today is 25th of August and here I am with the Hindu editorial. Before we go on to read the editorial, let us have a quick glance on the words that we are going to come across, the hard words. So they are partisan, that means showing too much support for a person, group of people or an idea, especially without considering it carefully. This word can be used for people who support a specific, as mentioned, person, group, or people without having the complete idea or knowledge about that specific topic. Or they just start keeping their points with the limited knowledge that they have and not the complete idea of it. Next word is clamor, that means to demand something in a loud or angry way. So this you can see happened in like a lot of protests happen, so people are trying to demand something but it is in a loud and angry way. Sometimes there are peaceful protests but still they can also be considered as clamor. Delegation, group of people who have been chosen to speak or take decision for a larger group of people. So in India, if you look, the leaders that you have elected, they are the delegates. And if you look, if there's a meeting like any meeting, you can say, like the UN meeting, the prime minister is our delegate who is representing India in the United Nations. Okay. Mobilization, that means the action of a country or its government preparing, organizing troops for active service. So this is basically the action of a country or its government for organizing troop for active services, like they are training them and mobilizing them, like providing them more skills and not knowledge but yeah, skills, and preparing them. Saddle is seat. This can also be used for the horse's back and where you keep your leg, that's called the saddle. Premise, that means to base something like an argument etc on an idea or theory. So like if there is an idea presented or a theory presented, you put forward some argument regarding it, so that's called a premised. Affirmative is basically agreeing to something or saying yes. Skeptic, a person who doubts that something is true. So this can be used for critics, like critics who judge the movie or many, like any film or anything. So this can be used for critics, and this can also be used for political leaders, opponent leaders who disagree with your ideology. Benign, that means kind or gentle. Salience is quality of being particularly noticeable or important. So salience basically comes from the word salient, and I'm sure you might have heard this while reading the Constitution of India, or maybe the preamble itself. There it says that fraternity, sovereignty, socialism, these all are the salient features of Indian Constitution. So let us move further by reading the newspaper. So today's newspaper is basically about caste counts. So here I'll give you a brief idea that people are demanding that in the census that's going to take place in 2021 or 2022, that caste should also be taken into notice. If you look earlier, the specific things that are taken in notice, like in respect to these caste and religion, it is the religion which you belong, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. But if you see, the OBC section is missing. So there are many other communities who are trying to make their way into it, so that they can also get reservations and are recognized. So that's why they are demanding it, and there are many political parties that are supporting it. Until now we haven't been able to come across any political party that is against this caste count, but maybe they can be in future. So a vision for a just India and not partisan political gains should inspire a fresh census. And as you remember, I had told the meaning of partisan, that means showing too much support for a group, person or idea, especially without considering it carefully. So here it's saying that people are demanding for a just India where all the groups are given equal importance and are recognized, and without any political, like without keeping in mind about the political gains, and they are aspiring for this type of census. The clamor for a fresh caste census is getting louder in the country. Clamor, as I told you, is a angry and loud way to demand something. So, in the country, this voice of people regarding census on the basis of caste is growing. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar led a delegation of 10 political parties of the state to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. So the current chief minister of Bihar, that is Nitish Kumar, with other 10 political parties of Bihar, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi and talked on this issue. And if you know that, then in Bihar state, in the legislative assembly, all the political parties, may it be the opponents or the party that is currently in power, all have agreed to a caste based census, like where caste is also kept in mind. No political party in the country has publicly opposed the demand as yet, and most have supported the call. Mr. Modi listened to the delegation but did not open his mind on the topic. So Mr. Modi listened to all the delegates who were there, but he did not keep forward his point of view and his saying, and also the fact that till now no political party has kept opposed this demand. Predictably, there will be more political mobilization on this issue. So they are saying there will be more parties who will be joining in this movement, or will be supporting this issue. The Bharatiya Janata Party has the advantage of being in the saddle and could time an announcement best suited for itself. So saddle is seat. So here its basic seat means remaining in power. In this sense, it means remaining in power. So here Bharatiya Janata Party, that is BJP, has that choice. Like if they agree to this type of census, then people like they are in advantage, because people will like their decision and they can be in saddle. They can be in power in the next election as well. The last time India's population was enumerated on the basis of caste was in 1931, when it was under colonial rule. There is a strong argument that the colonial census was about creating and reinforcing caste and religious categories in India rather than recording them in a benign manner. Effective governance requires robust data on governed. The creation of a category is itself a political act. Indian politics and the governance structure are all premised on categories that were formed up during colonialism. But the salience of caste as a fundamental marker of identity for India has only grown since independence. So here it's talking that last time when we had this caste-based census in India, it was in 1931, and in 1941 it was abolished, and after that we never had a caste-based census. But if you see, before every census people demand for it, but it has never happened that way. So, and also that people, it is said that during the census that happened during the colonial time, that was with regard to the caste, that did not better any situation. Instead, that like they did not record it. And here Benin, as I had already told you, is an action of a country or its government preparing and organizing troops for active service. Sorry. As you see, Benin is kind of gentle. So here, as you can see, the last time in India when we had a caste-based census, that was in 1931, and when we were under colonial rule, and then in 1941 this was abolished, and after that we never had a caste-based census, despite the fact that before every census people demand for it. But yeah, There is a strong argument that the colonial census was about creating and reinforcing caste and religious categories in India rather than recording them in a binding manner. So you are saying that in the colonial time, when we had a caste-based census, then uh, people cannot find a, a beneficial side to it, but it was just to create and reinforce caste and religious categories in India. So it was to make prominent the diversity of India and the different groups living in it, instead of recording them in Bainin manner. Bainin basically means kind or gentle. So they did not have a good purpose for it, a kind purpose for it, or kind manner for it, but it was just to create division amongst the people. Because, as you know, when people are divided, it's easy to rule. So that's why the colonial census was like that. Effective governance requires robust data on the governed. So robust means quick, sort of that. So here it's saying that effective governance required data on the governed. So it's saying the government or who is ruling us need data on the people it's ruling, like of what category they belong, what caste they belong, so that they can make more efficient policies for them, more efficient laws, and which are in favor for them and they benefit them. Because if you don't know whom you're ruling, you don't know the will be the policy good for everyone. It's like that. Indian politics, the creation of categories itself is a political act. Indian politics and the governance structure are all premised on categories that were formed up during colonism. So it's saying that the creation of these categories, which was more came into more picture with the census of 1931 and before it, that are a base of the Indian governance today. Because like if you see the reservations that we get in colleges, government colleges, they are all on the basis of the census of that time, that talks about all the communities living in India. But the salience of caste as a fundamental marker of identity for the India has only grown since independence. So it's the same thing, that the reservation has grown, like the idea of reservation has become more prominent, and more castes and more groups are being included in it. If you see, even the general has been given some reservation. So yeah, it's talking about how it's becoming more prominent. The caste is becoming more prominent. So now, yeah, as the democratization of society deepens, questions are being raised regarding the status of Dalits, tribal communities, and a large section of population that is characterized in the constitution as socially, educationally backward classes. So, as the idea of being democratic, more new ideas, more democratic ideas are being are coming into pictures. The question of people being Dalit, belonging to tribal communities, and belonging to social and educationally backward classes, people are raising questions on it. That if you see in our constitution, there is a creamy layer that refers to the people who belong to these SC and ST, but now they are well off, like they're economically settled and stable, and even in other ways, so they are able to live their life dignified. So people are raising questions on these groups, that are they still backward. Political representation of these communities has increased, and their participation in government jobs has risen. It is assumed that particular groups within each category have benefited disproportionately from political and job reservations, and there are demands for sub quotas. So it's saying that if you see, there was a commission that was passed. I think it was the Mandal Commission that talked that not more than 50% reservation can be given to the SC, STs and OBC. So so that was it. So it's saying that the reservation has been given to SC, STs and OBCs, and many people have been able to take the advantage of it, and now we can see a more bigger representation of these groups in the parliament, in other policy making, and in other places like the government jobs and everywhere. But at the same time, within these SC, STs, there are subgroups who have not been able to benefit, like some of them who have been able to benefit, but the lower ones in each of these have not been able to benefit. Many communities are demanding inclusion in one category or the other. Some communities are feeling shortchanged by the affirmative action step of the state. With the role of the government as a big employer diminishing, there is a demand for affirmative action in the private sector. As at the same time, we know these reservations are in the government offices and government services, and people now are asking these reservation in private sector as well. And also many other categories, the lower ones who are not receiving equal opportunities as the upper ones, and other communities which have not been recognized in these are also trying to make their way into this so that they can also get opportunities and come up. All these questions are being debated without adequate and reliable data, leading to conflicting and other misleading claims. So all of this is being discussed without data, because the census on the basis of which we are giving all the opportunities and everything, that was of 1931, and now presently we are in 2021. So you see, it's 90 years, and we cannot make decisions on a data that is a century back. So that's why. So people are not calling it's not that reliable, leading to conflict and other misleading claims. So making claim on the basis of something that's so old is not justice, is not appropriate. So it's leading to misleading, and there is a lot of debate about it. All these questions are being debated without adequate and reliable data, leading to conflicting and other misleading claims. Supporters of a caste census cites these reasons, while skeptics fear it will only widen social rifts. So the people belonging from these backward classes are demanding for it, but at the same time, skeptics, that means a person who doubts something that is true. So critics or skeptics fear that this will widen social rifts. This will widen social one community from the other. It will widen that gap that is currently there. They also point the multitude of practitioner problems such as exercise will encounter. What is not debatable, however, is the fact that inequitable distribution of power and wealth endangers the stability of any society. So when we'll look at this, we'll come across the government will come across a lot of problems, but at the same time, the inequitable distribution of power and wealth endangers the stability of any society. So currently there's inequitable distribution of things. So if we have the census, we'll have a better idea of a caste-based census. If we have it, we'll have a better idea of how the things should be divided, and we can make better policies, and so there'll be less danger for the stability of the society. Partisan political gain should not be the motivation for a fresh census. A renewed vision for a just and united India, where all divides and reduce, must guide the decision on a caste census. So here it's saying that there are a lot of drawbacks to this caste census as well, but we can keep that aside, and one should not keep an eye on it or eye that as the main thing why they are supporting this census, because then the whole purpose uh, would just not be fulfilled. And yeah, so like, if you might ask what kind of drawbacks are there to these caste census. So first is, as I already told you, social friction, that is gaps widening between two communities and societies, and the other is encouragement to vote bank politics. So this is basically that was mentioned in the last, that is that if there are if political parties are aware that this group is in majority in this area and this area, so they'll start making policies just regarding to that specific communities to gain their vote and win the election, and the minorities would again be neglected. And the arguments favoring this caste-based census are better policy making, because if you know whom you're ruling, whom you're making the policies for, so the policies will be better, because you can't make the policies on the basis of a census that happened 90 years ago, because so much has changed over the years. And it was identify the marginalized, the people who are not considered either in SC, ST or OBC, and also the subgroups who are not receiving equal opportunities, they'll be identified. So the last one is role of caste in socioeconomic status. So it can tell us how, like what caste belongs to which socioeconomic, like what is the social economic condition, and help us make better policies as mentioned above. Thank you. Okay, so that was it.